Hello, listeners. This is your host, Mike Anthony, currently in the throes of a cold and losing my voice. So please excuse me for the way I sound on this introduction. Those of you who'd like to get right to the interview, you'll notice that there are chapter markers on this episode, so feel free to go ahead and skip what I'm about to say. But if you're a little curious about what I'm doing here and what to expect from the show in the near future, then maybe don't skip it. It's been a bit since last we spoke, and I wanted to pop in at the beginning of this episode and just give you some context and to let you know what to expect from the show in the coming year or so. First, if you found the show and you're listening to it, my God, I'm very grateful. I don't know how you did it because I don't know how to promote myself. But I do appreciate you listening, and the feedback that I got from season 2, the Roach Haven story, was positive, and it made me eager to revisit that story sometime in the future. I won't say too much, but I have found a source that may be able to provide me some more detail on some of the things that I had to gloss over. Can't promise anything, but I'm hoping that something will come to fruition with that in the future. As for Wasteland Season 3, it is in the planning stages, but being that it is only myself that is doing it, and that's not me patting myself on the back, it's just, I guess I don't work well with others. Wasteland Season 3 will be coming sometime in 2026. I am planning it. I have some very interesting cases that I found, and some stuff that I haven't seen anybody else cover. So I'm excited to do that, and hopefully you will still be here to listen. And hopefully by that point I will have figured out how to market myself so that I can possibly cultivate some more listeners. Now, on the topic of this episode today, this is a special, and I'd like to do a few more of these this year just to sort of keep the podcast out there in some people's feeds. No, this isn't a traditional Wasteland episode. It is not a true crime episode per se, though that subject does come up. This is an interview. And this is an interview with someone that I enjoy speaking to greatly, someone that I have a lot of respect for, and someone that I had the pleasure to work with in a bit of a creative way. His name is Liam Fleming. He is an author from New Jersey, and the publishing company that my best friend Shane owns is publishing his new book. It's called Flytrap and Other Stories. It is an 11-story weird fiction anthology. Now, true crime, weird fiction, or we'll just use the term horror, they don't necessarily go together, but I do think that there is a bit of a crossover with fans of both. I think that true crime listeners and true crime watchers tend to be very detail oriented, so many of them enjoy reading, and we are attracted for some reason to this strange darkness that we seem to enjoy, this depth that we seem to enjoy plumbing. This book is not like your typical horror novel. It is not like your typical horror or short story collection. It is strange, it is unique, it is beautiful, it is horrifying, and it is such a piece of art that I've spent more time, I think, talking about Liam's book on other shows and in my conversations with other people than I have my own projects. I would liken Liam's vibe, if I can use that word, to H.P. Lovecraft, Thomas Ligotti, David Lynch, Ari Aster, and Jordan Peele. And I know that those are some big names that I just said, but the guy's just doing something different. I wanted to help him out by having him on the show. I know I have some listeners. I hope that you guys will be open to listening to our interview. The interview goes from his book to his inspirations to urban legends and folklore and true crime in New Jersey, where he comes from. We cover a lot of different topics, and it was just a very enjoyable conversation. If you're a bit of a nerd like we are, I think you'll enjoy it. And I think you'll enjoy Liam's book. Pre-orders are live now as you hear this. All pertinent links are in the show notes. And if you just decide that it's not for you, that's perfectly fine. I hope you'll enjoy the conversation. Anyway, So I want to thank you again for listening, and for those of you who are still here being flexible with this new type of an episode. I'm not becoming an interview podcast, but between now and season 3, I have some interesting people that I've met that I may try to post some interviews with. But we'll see how it goes. At any rate, sometime in 2026, you can expect a proper season 3 of Wasteland, and all updates will be posted over on Wasteland Pod on Instagram. Again, please be sure to check the show notes if you're interested in checking out Liam's book. I'd like to thank you for listening. I'd like to apologize because I'm losing my voice. Here's my conversation with Liam Fleming. I wanted to start with maybe some of the basics that might be a little too pedestrian for some people, but it interests me. When we first spoke about this book, you had the short story. But within a year, you had what it's 11 stories long. Within a year, you had 11 short stories done, and that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. So my question is, your process. How did you attack this once the idea of writing an anthology comes up? What ideas do I have written down somewhere? What is my work ethic going to be? How am I going to approach this every day?
Yeah, it was kinda interesting. I remember when I sent the pitch to you, I had 4 stories that I just wrote through college, and then 1 story that was cross-eyed and painless that was already in the anthology. Um, and there was a bunch that I had I think I was working on Flytrap at the time. I didn't know what I was
Mm-hmm.
gonna do with it. I might have been, 2 pages into it, and you guys said you were interested in anthology, and asked me, what would be a good timeline for it. And I think that might have been in June, so I said maybe January of the next year, that would be a good idea to have, 10 to 11 stories. So I set a goal for myself of maybe 1 story per month. Seemed good.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also in a nice boat where I was like, well, I know it's going to get published. Let me write something that I've always wanted to write, but never had the opportunity so I can push myself. I was also, I would write almost every day. I would write on lunch breaks at work. I try to find different ways. And I feel like I'm always trying to find a good process with writing. It changes depending on my schedule or how things are going for me. But at that time, it was at a much more low key job. I was able to write during 15-minute breaks, able to write during lunch.
You mustered up the focus to in a 15-minute break to jot down a couple of paragraphs.
Yeah, so what I ended up having to learn is that sometimes when you just have the blank page, it's a little too intimidating. It's like, oh, is this going to be good? Is this going to be good? So I found this little cheat for myself where I would take a notes app or Google Keep, and I'd say, oh, I'm just writing the notes. This is just an outline of the story. And in doing that, because I was like, oh, no one's going to read this, I end up writing most of the story. Like 80% of the story as it would appear on the page would be on a notes app somewhere on my laptop. Um, so kind of taken out of that space of who's reading this, who's looking over my shoulder. I was comfortable to write what I wanted. Yeah.
I tend to be more of a, when it comes to the creative process, I'm a self-flagellator. I beat the hell out of myself. You didn't do enough. You didn't do enough.
Mm,
You need to write at least 5 pages a day. And I would, because I grew up loving Stephen King. He was my hero when I was a kid. I still love a lot of his books now, but I think he said one day, "Oh, I write 10 pages a day or something," and
it's
not
crazy.
realizing not realizing this man is not understanding that this man is an absolute machine. I mean, nobody publishes as much as he does. So I would always feel guilty about the lack of what I've written, and recently I've started, as I have spread between different projects. Okay, well, I wrote a page, I wrote a couple of paragraphs, and I just didn't beat the hell out of myself about it anymore. But I'm always interested in the way other people do it because I feel like somebody's going to give me a secret at some point that's going to make something click.
It's interesting because whatever the pace I'm writing the stories at, as long as it's finished at the end, that's going to be my pace. And Stephen King's such an interesting example because that dude published over 96, almost 100 books by this point.
Yeah, it's
There's something
absurd.
he has that normal people do not have.
Hmm.
Um, and it's something I'm thinking about now because I feel like after I finish the manuscript, I've started a bunch of different things. I have little projects I'm working on, but like I want to get back into a point where like I'm routinely creating things. So I'm trying to think like what fits, like whatever feels like the least amount of effort. Even though it does take work to write a story, but like as long as it's not grueling, that's kind of what I'm trying to find.
The cliches are so true. I find as you get older, I would hear things and I'd say, that's stupid. That's not. But, I mean, life gets in the way. It really does. And I mean, you need life experience to write anything, even if you're writing something that's fantastical or weird. There's got to be some kind of a through line, a human element in it, or else it's just you're just basically scribbling. Trying to balance that is something that I'm always interested in. While we're on the topic of the book, this episode will be releasing near the release date of the book, but still I want to avoid as many spoilers as possible. I don't want to talk about the endings to any of these stories. But there's a few that and I may have asked you this before, but I feel like it would be good to preserve it here as well. This I view the book as weird fiction. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I like weird fiction is a good catch-all thing. I originally started thinking it was gonna be more straightforward horror, but then I want to do a little bit more fantasy, a little more science fiction, but I still like weird fantasy, weird horror,
Hmm.
weird something. I think is a good way to put it.
Okay.
I'm not that. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Because there's elements of science fiction, there's elements of horror, there's elements of fantasy in a lot of the stories because they run the gamut. And what I've noticed is a lot of times when I'm reading an anthology, and I don't read them very often, I feel like, and I'm not saying this about this book because this has sort of changed my outlook on it. Honestly, um, I've saw a lot of anthologies. Oh, it's a catch-all. It's like a compilation for a record label or something. But the craftsmanship that went into the stories, it's not just a catch-all. This is a collection of things that belong together, but at the same time, they come from such different. There's different worlds in almost every one of these stories, which I find fascinating. But also, it must be because there was some shared DNA in some of them as well. But you would go from this sort of uh, it was like a kind of a dystopian science fiction laboratory setting in it wasn't Superstar. It was Invaders from the Dream Space.
Yep. Yeah.
And then in it would be sort of like a folk horror rural setting in Rocky's what is it,
Uh,
Rocky's Last Revival? What is
Good
it?
Rocky's Revival.
Good Rocky's Revival. See, I
Yeah.
should I should have the book in front of me right now.
It's okay.
With the amount of times I've read it, you think I would have memorized the stories. But the shared DNA is so interesting, but the stories all take place. It's almost like a shattering of dimensions. I found it very interesting, and I was wondering, was it a conscious decision to pull in all these disparate sort of settings and sort of themes and give them a through line, or is this it's not that complicated. It just came out this way. You wanted to write all these different things and you managed to make them cohesive.
No, I think it depends on the story, but a lot of times when I come up with a story, it's more like I think a setting or a genre is really interesting, so I want to play
Mhm.
with that. So Invaders of the Dream Space, that was like, um, I want to write almost like a 50s B movie sci-fi story. And then like as I start working on it, it becomes its own thing. I rarely like plan the stories out all the way through. Like I'll have an idea or a vibe I want to strike. And I guess I realized like, and this is something I realized after reading the advanced copy, and my girlfriend read it too, and she's like noticing different similarities. It's just there are things I touch on a lot because I guess I think about them a lot, or like
Mhm.
lots of strange, pale, creepy figures,
Yes.
or the potentials for other gods and stuff like that.
Yeah, the tagline on the back of the book says 11 stories of bodies and godhood, which in and of itself isn't, it doesn't say a lot, but it says a lot at the same time. the idea, there's several times throughout where this something greater beyond our understanding is hinted to. And I like that you say that you don't plan it out, because it's the stories have kind of I don't know if the right word is musical, but it's or improvisational. Not that they sound like they're unfinished. They're very cohesive stories, and they have a beginning, a middle, and an end. But it feels like you got there in just a very cool way. And they don't. What I was saying when we can talk about it. I sent out many a press pack. It reminded me of my days back in 2004, 2005, trying to get one of my bands signed to Epitaph Records. But my the letter said, this isn't like it's not predictable. And I've likened what you do to something like Ari Aster, where it comes out of left field. The ending is just, whoa, I didn't see that. I mean, the eponymous story, the title story, Flytrap. I think it may be my favorite, but there's some ones that are very close to it. But the ending of that, just when I told Shane about it, who I'm publishing the book with, I was like, this is insane what happens in this story. And it goes from such a mundane setting to this abject horror. Is that something that you go for? I mean, the setting of the title story is a sitcom. So what is it about that setting, starting so mundane and then ending up in such a dark and horrifying place? What is it about that kind of got you to write the story?
I guess two things with that. Also, thank you for all the kind words. It's extremely flattering, and I appreciate that. It makes me think of, well, the idea originally came from, I think I said this on the previous podcast too, but I was watching an episode of Frasier where Diane comes back and he's helping facilitate her play, and she does this like twisted version of Cheers. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Mm.
Um, and I really like the work of Alan Resnick. No. Well, Alan Resnick he's a good YouTube horror person, but I forget who made Too Many Cooks. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yes.
the Adult Swim guys.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. The guys who made Pretty Face. I think one of them made Aqua Teen, or helped. He worked on Aqua Teen.
Yeah, exactly. And so I like the idea of taking things and trying to match the vibe of like a classic sitcom as much as possible, and then slowly weaving in things that make it like eerie and creepy. What I'm just thinking of is how Too Many Cooks starts very natural and mundane. You start to realize creepy things are behind the scenes, and it gets like worse and worse and worse. Which This House Has People in It is another good example. That's Alan Resnick with the people sinking into the floors and stuff like that.
There's something about these institutions, these things that we grew up with. I mean, I grew up watching everything from The Honeymooners to Seinfeld. I mean, I'm big on sitcoms. I always have been. But you don't realize what a comfort they can be. The very familiar setting, the familiar characters. And one of the good things about it is the conflict is solved by the end of the episode, or maybe it's a two-parter or what have you. And that, I think, is what is the most scary thing about it. I mean, never mind the supernatural horrible thing that happens in that story, but the setup, it doesn't follow the normal plot line, where by the end, everything's sewn up. Story A, story B, it's all good. It's like nothing's ever the same after that again. So that one really, really stuck with me.
I think so. That made me think of do you ever watch Futurama or Frasier or?
I mean, I've watched more Frasier than Futurama. I'll say that.
So the reason I'm bringing that up, there are two subreddits called Futurama sleepers and Frasier sleepers of people who just love falling asleep to these shows because of how comforting they are. Not that they're intentionally written that way, but there's something in like the rhythm of the show, the way people talk, the color scheme of it. So it's naturally comforting to watch. And what I think is interesting about Flytrap and what I want to do with like future things with sitcoms, because I do want to write more sitcom stories.
Yes,
but like the way that I think there's this idea of like everyone goes, they write one real book over and over and over again. I think sitcoms are like one of the stories I'm going to write over and over again.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Haunted house stories are so scary because you're taking something that's familiar and then making like, oh, I'm not safe here. So taking other things like goofy sitcoms and making that like warped and twisted is something that's interesting to me.
And the falling asleep to sitcoms is absolutely something I've spent much of my life doing. I've only recently stopped falling asleep with the TV on with the advent of the sleep timer. I'm sure it existed long before, but I tend to resist those things. But yeah, there is something about there. What's your comfort sitcom? Do you have one?
Oh yeah, it's Frasier. It's
Frasier.
so easily Frasier.
I love Frasier, I really do, but I'm not as proficient. I don't know all the lore. I haven't seen every episode, but I mean, Seinfeld's my top, but I love one of my favorites from the '90s was Wings. There was
Oh, okay.
something, and I know Frasier. Wings was a spinoff of Cheers or Frasier. It was one of them because Cliff and who did who did George Wendt play in Cheers?
Oh, Norm.
Norm. Yeah. Cliff
Yeah.
and Norm, they came to the airport, and Frasier Crane was a character on Wings briefly as well. And there's just something about the airport set, and you've got Faye over here at the Sandpiper desk, you got Roy over at the other desk, Helen's behind the lunch counter. They're always there. I always hated sitcom finales. They mess with the foundation of it. I grew up loving All in the Family, but some of the episodes got so serious. And then when Mike and Gloria moved away, I was like, I don't even want to watch it anymore. It's like they ripped the show apart in front of me. I just want it to start and get back to the start at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I never watched sitcom finales. I mean, the Seinfeld one's fine, but Golden Girls ended notoriously without a finale. So that's one I can watch.
That's actually awesome. The only fun fact, I've only seen like 3 seasons of Seinfeld, but I think Frank Sinatra died on the night Seinfeld ended. And his ambulance driver taking him to the hospital said that it was the clearest the New York streets have ever been in his life.
I'm sure Jerry could have done something with that joke. So there's a few more that I just wanted to touch on before we move on to something else. You seem to have a predilection with the Beatles because there are references sprinkled throughout many of your stories. The obvious one, I won't give away some of the other ones because that won't be fun. The obvious one is the 5th story in the anthology, and that's Good Rocky's Revival. So it's about, that's a line from the song Rocky Raccoon, isn't it?
Yeah.
So anybody who knows anything would probably see that as a Beatles reference. But it tells the story, a very odd story of what happened to Rocky after he was shot in the famous Beatles song Rocky Raccoon. What is it about? I mean, I just have never thought to do that, to take a character from a song, and it's not as if it's the only time something like that is done in the book. Wow. I just want to know where that comes from. Did you always want to know what the rest of the story was, or did you just like that song?
I just really like the idea of I don't know, seeing song characters as actual characters who had lives after it, because there is another story in the book that plays a big role in it too.
Sure.
And I just thought it was a cool way to mine ideas too. But being as careful as possible, like to not get sued.
It's very ambiguous. It's great. I also noticed that there are 2 stories that connect in the book. I'm not going to say which ones, but I do like that as well. Something coming back around in an anthology. I love when songs reprise lyrics. I love when stories connect to one another. It's almost like you have the beginnings of a shared universe.
It's funny because those are the clear ones, and there are a few other ones that I think I could connect if I wanted to. With similar things happening, or the way similar things come from the same place in these stories.
I think the last story that I wanted to touch on, because if we talk too much, I just feel like it gives too many details away, and that's not what I want to do. And this was a story that you actually submitted it to a contest. We tried to get it submitted for you. They were not very forthcoming. So it's the story of Sixth and Center Publishing. It's the story of Wasteland. It's the story of all of it. So we did warn you which star you were hitching your wagon to. But
I'm happy to do it.
There's a story in the book, and I think it may be the shortest one. It's called Water at the Bottom of the Ocean. And this story, I've really thought about it after I've read it, and I've read it several times because there's at one point I think, oh, I think it's about this, and then at another I think it's about something else. And it's basically about a girl who her mom is very preoccupied with something which may or may not be real, and it's coming to take her away. And I just wanted to know maybe where that came from, the aquatic imagery. There's antlers in it. It's so strange, but it's like a dream. It's kind of like it's something I would imagine, you'd see in a Lynch movie.
I love that. That's extremely flattering to hear. Also, R.I.P. David Lynch, one of the best
Yes.
artists we've ever had.
I just rewatched Blue Velvet the other day. It was harrowing.
Yes, I watched it the weekend after he died. It's so good. I was not hot on the first time. I watched it again. It's so good.
Yeah.
But
There's something to it.
yeah, water at the bottom of the ocean. Part of it was, I forget the specific prompt of the contest I wanted to write it for was it had to be focused around water. I think it was like Sunken Secrets. That's what it was called.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
It was something like that.
I forgot that it was you had the prompt first. You didn't already have this one.
Yeah, I originally had this idea of a house where there's a young girl living there, and something keeps coming to visit from the backyard. Like like there's water that's pooling in the woods, and then someone comes from the water.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, there's a book I really like. I don't want to spoil it, but the ending is very much like that. And once I realized, I was like, okay, I gotta tweak that. And I don't know where the idea of the kitchen sink came from, like looking and peering into the sink.
But there's something so unnerving about just ordinary everyday things, and then there's something strange going on with them.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's also a fun way to like push stories forward if you have something like you can have the family drama, but you can have something that's like really eerie in the background, so you can kind of jump back and forth between the two of them without like spending too much time having to flesh out both of them.
No, I feel like that story is, and I'm not rating the stories against each other. It's just I think it's, even though it doesn't have the most horrifying or fantastical elements, I think it's very it's like that's you in that story.
I
Like
like that.
it's very, cuz it just turns something on its head. I liken many of the stories to Ari Aster, who, is obviously, for anyone who may or may not know, wrote and directed Hereditary and Midsommar, which I've kept calling it Midsummer for I don't know how long. And then Beau is Afraid, and a lot of mundane things in those movies turn out to be absolutely terrifying and unnerving.
Thank you. I mean, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
This is a true crime podcast. I would think that anybody who likes true crime would enjoy this, so there you go. But also, I've delved a little bit into folklore and urban legend on the show, and Liam is from New Jersey. Which part specifically?
So South Jersey, I'm like a half hour from, so Southwest, I guess. I'm a half hour from Philadelphia, pretty close to Camden, 2 hours south of New York. So pretty close to the Pine Barrens too.
I gauge everything in Jersey by The Sopranos.
Okay, so I'm like 2 hours south of where Tony's house is.
Is that an actual house in Jersey?
Mhm.
Oh, that's cool.
I have friends who've taken photos in front of the house and stuff like that.
Man, I miss that guy. I miss Gandolfini.
R.I.P.
Man, I miss Gandolfini. New Jersey, I feel like there's something about that area. Jersey, New York, Philly to a lesser extent. Everybody from there winds up in Florida almost in some way, some shape or form. So I've always felt there's a kinship between the two states. Florida's a weird state, and as I've shown on the show, there's just tons of strange crimes and all kinds of stuff that I've covered. So I was wondering if you had any sort of pet urban legends or things that you could sort of key our listeners into, maybe they could start looking them up for themselves.
I guess the big one, I would be put in New Jersey jail if I didn't bring up the Jersey Devil. I'm not sure. You've heard of him, right?
Sure.
Okay.
I've made jokes about him before on the other show where he just stands on people's roofs and he yells at them for baked ziti or something. I don't know.
Okay, so that's not actually. I was doing some more research. That's actually not that far from the truth of him standing on people's roofs and yelling into their house. But I guess the quick rundown of that is the Jersey Devil is our like state folklore cryptid symbol. He's supposed to look like he has like the wings of a giant bat, the head of a horse, legs of deer, and like so almost like this like amalgamation of all these different animals. He's supposed to have been cited for hundreds of years. And the setup is that there's a woman in the 1770s, I want to say, depending on which legend you're listening to, where she's going to have her 13th child. And she's like, let this child be a devil. I'm so sick of having kids. Please do something with this. And then as the legend goes, it's a dark and stormy night. She gives birth to something that's not human. And it kills one of the midwives and flies away. And the weird thing about the Jersey Devil is that, like, it probably realistically not true. I don't know if I believe in the Jersey Devil, but I'm very much open to it. But there's been so many odd sightings, like Joseph Bonaparte, Napoleon's brother and former king of Spain, moved to the Pine Barrens and saw him. They closed schools, I think, in Collingswood in like 1909 because there were so many sightings of him in South Jersey.
Wow.
It's so interesting, and also I feel like I do have to say, my grandfather is he's very big into family history and trying to find a connection between us and the Jersey Devil because through marriage, distant parts of our family married into the Leeds family where the legend comes from. So
That is so interesting.
yeah,
That
so some
I feel like there's some story in there of somebody going, somebody in a back room somewhere going mad trying to do their genealogy and finding out that the Jersey Devil is somehow involved.
No, he's getting close. He had heard about it for a while. That like people had told him growing up, and I think he finally found a distant relation that now he's trying to validate. So we're gonna have the truth soon.
You brought up the Pine Barrens. I don't. So I mean, I've been to Jersey several times playing music. I've driven through. I've been to the shore. I've been to AC, but I don't know the state very well. And I know, of course, that legendary Sopranos episode where Paulie and Christopher get lost in the Pine Barrens. But so you're right near the Pine Barrens. Is it as strange and spooky as people say, or is it just woods?
It's kind of both. It's weird because like New Jersey is one of the most densely populated states. I think Rhode Island might be more. I don't know. I might be talking out of my ass, but it's very densely populated. But that's mostly North Jersey and bits of South Jersey around Philadelphia. But there's this like huge section. I think it's like over 1 million acres of undeveloped land, and that's the Pine Barrens. And it's so culturally different. You feel like you're in like the backwoods of Appalachia when you're in the Pine Barrens. And I think because it's so big and so it's been around for so long, it's like naturally home to all these different urban legends. Like the Jersey Devil's a big one, like Red Eyes in the woods and stuff like that. It's I guess I can see how it's creepy. It's easy to get lost in there.
So that's another thing I think, another similarity between that area and Florida, because the coasts, you've got everything from Jacksonville, which seems like it's not even in Florida, to Daytona, which is quintessentially white trash Florida. And then you keep going south and you get Miami, which is, a place that people from all over the world come to. And the Gulf Coast is a little more relaxed, but Tampa, Clearwater, everyone goes there to die, as the saying. And Orlando, but for the most part, the middle of the state, it does feel like you're in Appalachia. It's a completely different culture. I mean, I can't think of a better word. It's just very redneck, and there's places. I mean, there's a horrible history in early Florida of lynchings and racism and just absolute barbarity towards people of color, because it was. And you say, "What did this? Where were you? Were you in Alabama?" No, we were in Florida. It's a strange thing. The coasts are so cosmopolitan, for lack of a better word, and then the interior is swamp.
Yeah. It's so interesting to think of like the majority of the state feels one way, and there's this pocket of a state that's something else entirely.
Stuff like that is such good fodder for stories, though.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Yeah.
So besides the Jersey Devil, Is there anything maybe that you've personally experienced? I've told stories on other shows where I'm not going to tell it here, but I did see a cat with a human face. So
That's I'm gonna have to track that down. That sounds amazing. Yeah, so when I was in college, my friends and I were pretty into looking into abandoned places, urban exploration, that kind of thing.
awesome.
Um, and we've done it a handful of times. I guess I won't be too specific, but whatever. So there's this place called the Gates of Hell in Clifton, and it's the sewer system.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
This is like a similar. There's similar places I've heard of.
Yeah, it's a sewer system in northern Jersey, which we would do like 2 hour drives to go to, and you have to like walk along a train tracks and go down and descend through like these woods. And
Mm.
there's like local legends where like if you go deep enough, you'll see crazy stuff like skulls on the ground and like these big ass wooden doors that you have to hold these axes that are thousands of pounds heavy and like cut through the doors and you can see the devil on the other side. Which I've never seen that, but we would go a handful of times. And the creepiest thing we saw was like there were like these like long white eels that would go through like the water in the tunnel, which not
Mm.
too supernatural, pretty unnerving. But it was cool.
Isn't that something that you used?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
that exact spot shows
I'll
up.
say
Yep.
no more. I'll say no more.
Yeah.
No, I that is stuff like that has always fascinated me. I was a big scaredy cat, which I haven't said that word in probably 35 years. But I when I was younger, it was so easy to get. I couldn't sleep. I was a bad sleeper, and it wasn't until late middle school, early high school where I just binged on horror movies and true crime. I don't know what it was about it, like overcoming a fear, but exploring places. I didn't get to do a lot of that, and it was something I always wanted to do. The idea that just beneath the surface, just like Blue Velvet, there's this pristine, nice suburbia, and if you just kind of scratch at it a little bit, all of a sudden, oh, you're in the underground, you're in the upside down, you're in the labyrinth. Um, that's something that I've always found fascinating. I mean, I think that's one of the things that drew me to like True Detective. That's one of my most favorite pieces of media ever. The first season, where Carcosa's just, it may not be in suburbia, but it's just right. It's just out there somewhere, and you gotta kind of follow this trail of dark breadcrumbs to get to it.
I love that shit. There's this idea of ostensive practice. For my senior year in college, I did an independent study on folklore and
Hmm.
digital folklore specifically, so creepypasta and stuff like that. And
That's
so
cool.
there's this idea of like how do urban legends like repeat themselves? Like how do they stay alive for so long? And part of it is like you do things to practice them and you keep them alive. So a sense of practice finding these creepy places like the gates of hell and going there with my friends, like we're telling ourselves the legends about it, telling ourselves the steps to get there, and like the idea that like by repeating it you make it a little bit more real each time. I don't know, that's
Mm.
just something that came to mind.
No, that's interesting. It's really the point of stories. I've been on mythology with my students and trying to get them to enjoy it, telling them why we tell stories, what they can teach us or what they can do for us. And it's like I feel like I'm talking to 26 individual brick walls. It's like, don't you understand? This is great. Okay. Enough about my struggle. No, I love that. So I know that there's a ton of urban legends and folklore in Florida. I mean, anywhere you go, you're going to find rich history if you dig deep enough. But it's just, I feel like every time I've tried to do some episodes on urban legends, and it was just alligator men and stuff like that. That just, it didn't really jibe with what I was going for. Being that this is a darker podcast, but the focus is on true crime. New Jersey, I
Mhm.
mean, it's got quite a reputation. I know that most of what I know about crime in New Jersey are different famous cases or criminals. It really usually comes back to the mob, which is as far as I can understand, that I'm sure is still a force, but not the force that they once used to be. But is there a true crime case you feel like might be something my listeners might have missed along the way, something that you could enlighten them on?
Yeah, so one of them is a very small one. My dad's really into true crime. I told him I was going to be coming on this podcast, and I texted him like, "Hey, what's a good story I can bring up?" And he remembered when he was growing up, there was an apartment one town over that had an alligator and people would bring their dogs to fight the alligator. Um, so I have to look that up to verify, like see when that happened, what happened.
Mhm.
So there's that. The famous one that I was thinking of earlier is the Watcher House. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that story is insane. I didn't watch the Netflix series. I heard it didn't really do it justice.
No, I haven't seen it either, but the basic rundown of that is that Westfield is another North Jersey town. But there's a couple named Derek and Maria Broadus, and they purchased this house. Um, and before they moved in, they started getting hand typed letters by someone who called himself the Watcher. And it said shit like, my grandfather watched the house in the 1920s. My father watched the house in the 1960s. It is now my time. I've been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. You don't want to make the house unhappy. Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? I asked the previous owners to bring me young blood, which apparently the previous owners they've been interviewed. They said they've never gotten letters like that. But this person was targeting this family before they moved in.
Mm.
Um, and they were unnerved about it, but they felt a little odd and like, what's going on? And 2 weeks later, they got another letter addressed from the same watcher, and it contained details about the couple's three young children, their birth order, and their nicknames. The letter asked who was going to be in the street-facing bedrooms. It said, "That will help me know who is in which bedroom, so I can plan better." And like this was like uncomfortable enough for like that the Broadus or the Bradis, however you pronounce it, they never ended up moving in. And they
Mhm.
actually sued through the county superior court the people who tried to sell them the house because they believed that they knew that there was a stalker who'd been following the house forever. Um, and I don't know how far it went. I don't think they ever made it past, but they were able to sell the rights to the story for a lot of money to Netflix.
Yeah, because I heard that they financially it almost ruined them because they
Yeah,
bought a house and then they couldn't live in the house and they had nowhere to live. I mean, it's such a simple thing, but if you think about that, it's financially devastating.
yeah. Oh my god. I mean, like, what do you do with a house that you can't live in? Especially, and then you can't sell it because everyone's heard about how creepy and fucked up your house is. You know?
Yeah, exactly. That is a really strange story. I have read a few things on it.
It goes back to that thing of like a home is where you're supposed to feel comfortable. What do you do if you know your home's actively being monitored by someone you've never met? You know?
Ari Aster made a few short films, and he made this one called C'est la vie that is one of my favorite things I've ever seen on the internet. I mean, it's a well done. It's a short film. I think it's like 8 minutes, and it follows this homeless guy who you would see him. You would see a character very close to him in Beau is Afraid. Same actor, I believe. It's like a little callback. And it's just a series of vignettes where the guy is talking to the camera and he's talking about his life and it's how bad it is. I mean, he's talking about truly what it's like to be homeless, and then it sort of in a too many cooks fashion, it gets crazier and crazier as he's talking to the camera, but then he's doing a home invasion while he's talking to the camera, and then he steps away for a minute and shoots people like off screen. It gets very dark. But at one point, he talks about how I think it was Freud that said the definition of horror or fear is when your home becomes unhome-like, and that always stuck with me. You should. I'll send you the link to that if you haven't seen it. That's a really cool piece of art that I love it. It's so dark. So
That sounds awesome. The only short film of his I've seen is The Strange Thing About the Johnsons.
which is a depraved piece of art. I mean, that's when I didn't know any of that until I saw Hereditary, just thinking it was your average horror movie, and it really it's one of 3 horror movies that have scarred me. And I looked into everything that I could from him, and that story. Oh my god.
Yeah, God, it's I when I was in college, I watched it with friends, and we were drinking, and I said, "Take a drink every time you feel uncomfortable." And the vibe of the night permanently shifted after that. There was no coming back.
Yeah, it's definitely not the type of thing you could say, "Hey guys, check this out. Let's watch this." It's not like watching Aqua Teen clips or something.
Yeah.
Aside from writers, I mean, I would like to know what writers influence you to write, but other practitioners of other media, whether it be movies or video games or art in some way, shape, or form, Who influences you? You know, on our other show when we've interviewed certain musicians, people always act like it's the most cliche question, but I want to know because I want to know what they're reading or experiencing to do what they do so that I can look at it too. So it's always one that I like to ask.
Yeah, I guess like I'll give a quick handful of books and I can talk about movies. But
Sure.
I mean, like book writers like Mark Danielewski, House of Leaves is like one of my all-time favorite books. Jeff Vandermeer, I've read most of his work, especially the Annihilation series. I love mixing his idea of like mixing the natural world with the horrible and stuff like that is so cool. John Langan, because I love The Fisherman. Stephen King is someone that is hit or miss for me, but when I like it, I really like it. Like I love Pet Cemetery.
There's a few that are such an indisputable classics, but then I don't know, you get up to the 2000s and you're like, I don't even know what this guy's writing about anymore. I mean, I don't even care.
Yeah, no, he's someone where like I hear about some of his recent books. I'm like, I couldn't bother myself to read it. But like, he's also the guy who wrote It and Pet Cemetery. Like, you have those
Sure.
laurels for the rest of your life, or The Stand.
Absolutely.
In terms of directors, I do like Ari Aster a lot. I love David Lynch, even though I've mostly seen his weird stuff. I have to go and watch like The Straight Story and The Elephant Man to see his like sweet stuff. But I love Twin Peaks,
I've never seen either of those either.
which apparently they're really good. And I gotta
Mhm.
check them out. Like I said earlier, Alan Resnick was really influential on me in terms of mixing the mundane and the weird. Have you ever seen unedited footage of a bear?
The Bear.
Or unedited footage of a bear?
Of a Bear. No,
Yes.
I haven't seen that. No.
Okay. It's very good. Very good short YouTube horror, kind of YouTube horror. This House Has People is in it is really good.
Well, while you're mentioning YouTube horror, I'm late to everything. I don't know what it is. I don't know why that is, but I just always feel like I'm late to everything. Analog horror is something that really kind of jumped up and bit me for a little bit. And I watched The Backrooms. I watched Local 58. I watched a few of them. And there's some that are just not good. It's like everything else. It's going to get saturated. Is there still an analog horror scene? Are there still creators that are making stuff, or is it dead? Because by the time I wrote out some stuff for my own series, I feel like nobody's doing it anymore.
I feel like there has to be, right? Because Skinamarink is almost like a big version analog. Kind of. It feels
I
like
haven't
analog
seen
horror.
that. I started watching it. I was not in the right frame of mind, and I just said, I'm not going to fight this because I might end up hating it. If I do, I'm gonna wait and watch it some other time.
I'm very conflicted about it. I would like to see it again, but I'd be very curious to see what you thought of it. I feel like it's still there. I heard, I haven't seen it, but Local 58 came back, according to my friend.
Okay.
So I feel like it's still there. There's at least an audience that when analog horror does come back, they'll be receptive to it.
Because I feel like it gets kind of written off as, you're kind of a typical YouTube fad. It's like for anime kids or something. I don't know. It's just, but it really touched a nerve, and it was something. It was a different type of filmmaking that I even thought like I could maybe do something like this, which filmmaking is something I've never really considered because I don't have the know-how for it. But something like that, it was sort of like it leveled the playing field. You just need a computer.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want to go all out and actually record your own things and do special effects. But yeah, those are I like that stuff a lot. So maybe I should just like it and not worry if there's a scene. That's something else I should do. Yes, I say that now.
No, analog horror is awesome. I do think it's really cool. I do like lots of like internet-based horrors. Like I was a creepypasta kid in high school and stuff like that.
That was obviously I'm older, so when I heard the term, I said I don't want anything to do with this. This seems so weird. But then you actually do read some of the stories, some of the better stories, and it's like, oh well, this is modern folklore, is what
Yes.
it is, really.
It's exactly modern folklore. It's like the same kind of urban legends just translated online. Well, the thing with creepypasta and any kind of like big widespread internet thing is like you're gonna go through miles of bad stuff before you get like the really good gems.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
when I was in high school, there was this one that really got to me called "Normal Porn for Normal People." Have you heard of that?
I haven't heard of that. No.
It's the story of someone who found a website emailed to him, and it was like this like wall of blank text, and you start clicking on it and you realize they're hyperlinks, and they start taking him to these like videos that like at first are mundane of like a dog eating a peanut butter sandwich or something like that, or like a
Mhm.
man dancing around in, like a chicken mask or something. And as he clicks through them, they get a little bit more and more disturbing and depraved. Like it ends with a woman who's tied to a bed, and they like they let in a live chimpanzee, and like which yeah,
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I don't know. That's a really good one because it gives you this impression like that site is out there, and people have tried to recreate the site in a weird way. I don't know. I love
That
internet horror.
that's one of those strange things where if you read a story about it, you could probably make something that's very similar to it, and then it's what came first. Who knows?
Hmm.
At a certain point, you don't know anymore. Two of my favorite things. I don't know if I mentioned them the last time we talked, but there's two internet stories that probably. I mean, it was like right when I got broadband in 2000, 2001. I was a junior in high school or something. There were these two stories that they got posted on some site. It was Jeff the Caver or
Oh
something.
my god!
The
I
caving
fucking
story.
Ted the Caver.
Ted the Caver.
I fucking
Yeah,
love Ted the Caver.
I reread it a couple of years ago. It's still pretty good. And then there was the Dianaya House. I think that's what
Yes,
it's called. Yeah, the
that one's really
house.
cool.
That one, I thought there's really something to this story. It's very unnerving. It's very scary. And to me, I read House of Leaves not long after that, and I just it seemed it was kind of had some of the same DNA. But I mean, House of Leaves goes. Speaking of House of Leaves, as you're talking about Mark Danielewski, I read House of Leaves. I read every word in that book, whether I had to turn it upside down or whatever. But then I got to Only Revolutions and I tapped out. What is it about his later stuff that people still enjoy? I mean, I genuinely want to know what why he's I mean, what is it that you like about him?
Well, this might make me sound like a fair weather Mark Danielewski fan. I've only read House of Leaves. I've read it
Oh,
two to
okay.
three times, but
Sure.
I don't know. So I actually saw him speak at Bryn Mawr like a year ago.
Mhm.
And he has a new book that's supposed to be a Western. It's supposed to be it seems really interesting. He's like now
Interesting.
finally promoting it. But I'm a little nervous to read his other stuff, and in case it's just something I don't stick with. I don't know. That's always like the fear of like being a huge Stephen King fan and finding a book that you don't like, you know?
Because I mean, Shane, my co-host on I Don't Want to Hear It, for anyone who's listening, I think you probably know that. If you found this, you probably found that. Um, he's a big fan, but I often give Shane a lot of crap because I act like, oh, you're trying to be artistic and artsy. When I tried to read Only Revolutions, I really did, and I couldn't make heads or tails of it, and that might be me. It might be my problem. But I just, the fact that you've only read House of Leaves it's not a con in my book.
it's I think Danielewski, like his thing is that he's like very interesting in playing with the form of stories, and like I think he's like always obsessed with I got introduced to him in a class called Weird Books because it's always like how do you like mess around with the physicality of a story to make it as creepy as possible.
That was a class you took?
Yes. Oh, it was like my favorite class in college.
Man, God, I my college did not like I did not get this experience. That sucks. Damn it. What other books did you guys look at in Weird Books? That's the only one I can think of.
We read House of Leaves, which was awesome. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. We read Chris Ware's Building Stories, which is like this like set of graphic novels, but it's contained almost in like a board game box, which was
Hmm.
annoying to bring to class, but very interesting. There were some digital stories we worked with, but we also read S by J.J. Abrams, Doug Dorst. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I never heard of that.
I think I have it in here. Oh, I recognize this is an audio format, so people can't see what I'm doing, but it's like this book that like they have the cover story, which is this old book called The Ship of Theseus,
Mm-hmm.
but there's another story of handwritten notes on every page of people talking to each other.
Oh, okay. That
And,
is cool.
yeah, and there's shit like there's like napkins tucked into it. There's like hidden messages and stuff. It's a fun one.
I know that we've talked in our emails back and forth a little bit about what you want to do next. So is there anything that you can kind of, I mean, guys, listen, when you read the book, you're going to be a fan. And if you're not, you need to go someplace else. I'll tell you right now. But I would like to know, what is it that you really want to do next? I mean, is it another book? Is it a novel? I know I've yelled about, you should make this a movie, but
Yeah, I don't want to go too far into it because it's a spoiler, but there's a larger set of stories I want to do about a one-off character in one of the stories, which
okay.
I can tell you off mic, but
Yeah,
obviously,
sure.
um, I've been kicking around this idea of a longer form, maybe almost a horror novel about someone who's a chaplain during World War II and finds something horrifying in France, um, and then he's a pastor maybe 50 years later of an old church, and that thing comes back for him and having
Mm.
like to confront that, like and it's like the two stories across two generations.
What type
um
of research would you do for something like that? I mean, to, where would you start? I just, that always interests me as well.
yeah, so what I'm thinking about for that is like looking back into I'm probably gonna borrow some World War II history books from my grandfather. He's a big World War II historian. But like look at like Band of Brothers and stuff like that. Maybe see if there's like a way I can insert a chaplain into that story.
Hmm.
Um, and then also I was really inspired by the movie First Reformed. Have you ever seen that?
No, I don't think so. No.
It's really good. It's about like a pastor who gets radicalized by climate change, and it gets
Oh,
dark.
I heard of this. Yeah, I did hear about it.
Yeah, it's incredible. But I want to look into like maybe some of the like theology that inspired that, because like I would want it to feel real, you know.
Yeah, sure.
Um, so that's what I'm starting now. And I don't know. And then I want to work in some more fantasy things. I'm interested. We've talked about like a TTRPG kind of thing, or
Sure.
a bigger fantasy world with giant funguses and gods and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that. That's an awesome idea. Speaking historically, I noticed that there was throughout some of your stories, there's a nautical motif. And I was wondering where that came from because I felt, I mean, I don't know if it's just the fact that I don't know that world very well, but is it, from your background? Is it because you read Moby Dick? I mean, where does that come from? As I noticed it in several of the stories and I thought it was really interesting.
Part of it is that it's something I picked up from my great grandfather. Like he was really into, like you can see behind me that like that whale carved out of wood. That's something he made like years and years ago. He was very into like nautical fiction, Master and Commander, and it's something I didn't really get into until college. I think when I saw The Lighthouse by Robert Eggers, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing that like there's a whole world of mythology and like folklore and horror that I never really known about, because I used to think stories about boats were boring.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so starting to dig apart that and look into like dark nautical stories like the Terror or the Rime and the Ancient Mariner and stuff like that.
The
Um,
Terror is who wrote The Terror?
Dan Simmons.
Dan Simmons. Yeah, that's right. That was on my list. But I had this whole cleansing of lists that I deleted all my lists. I felt like it was weighing down on me too much. I still haven't read Moby Dick. It's been sitting on my shelf for decades. I still haven't read it.
I'm still working through it myself.
It's a tough one, man. I don't know. I should have read it when I was younger, but then I wouldn't have appreciated it. I had more. Do you notice? I mean, I know that I'm older than you, but I swear, man, I get to the point where I do not have the attention span that I used to, and it really upsets me.
I feel that more. I mean, I know we like From Software games, but like in playing
Mm.
Elden Ring, like I go to work, sometimes I get stressed at work and stuff like that. I want to come home and unwind. Like I don't want to get my ass kicked by a boss, and I
Yeah.
feel the same way. Like sometimes reading like Moby Dick or Ulysses, like I just I don't have the time for it.
I mean, I read. I think I read. I had read Faulkner when I was younger. I had tried to go down that path, and it wrecked my brain. So I recently, because I said to myself, look, I know that this is not going to be my guy. Probably that I'm not going to have a come to Jesus moment about William Faulkner when I'm 40 or 41. It's just probably not going to happen. But I should read As I Lay Dying. I should read one of the more well known ones. And I scratched and clawed through that book, and it is not a long book. And it was every word was like chewing on glass. And I just, it wasn't that I'm not saying he's terrible, or I mean, who am I to say that about any great author? But my God, it was not for me. But I did fight through it. And I feel like Moby Dick would be a bit more pleasurable. It does seem like it has themes that I would connect with much more. But man, have you read Faulkner?
No, I haven't. I know him and Melville were very influential on Cormac McCarthy, who I love.
Yeah. I mean, and
Yeah.
I do love Cormac McCarthy. For some reason, Blood Meridian speaks to me in a way that some of these other books don't. I don't know
Yeah.
what that is. Maybe it's just it's just modern enough for my brain to grasp it. But yeah, the attention span thing is something I fight with. I mean, I was a voracious reader and I'd love to read, but I just don't have the drive that I used to. And I do blame video games. I blame a lot of things. I blame the phone in my pocket.
Yeah.
Have you played through Elden Ring? You done it?
I have, and then I made a new character to play Shadow the Archery, because I wanted to do like a solo, no summoning run,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to Shadow the Archery and got my ass beat. I was like, you know what, that's fine. You can wait. We'll play through it eventually. But so I've done
So
everything but the DLC.
much in the same way that I dragged my limp body through Faulkner, I did that DLC, and it was a joyless, soul crushing experience. I beat the final boss. It took me about 40 tries, and I said, why have I done this to myself? What did I get out of it?
Well, it's so weird because like I got into from soft games when I was in high school, and like the experience of like grinding against a boss for 2 hours and you finally beat it. It's like this rush of exhilaration and relief, and now it's kind of like, oh, okay, it's done. Like it's like a sigh now. And not that, yeah, I
Yeah.
still love it and I still appreciate it. It's just like the it feels very different as I get older.
Yeah, I am starting to feel my age in many more ways than one. And that attention span thing and the asking myself, what is it that you're getting out of this? I was talking on the other show that we do just the other day. I was like, I love to quit and delete things. I know it sounds terrible, but it frees me up to focus on one thing at a time because there's so much coming at you. There's so much. I mean, and then I spread myself too thin. It's like I should be writing another season of this podcast, but here I am not doing it. It's just it's not enough time in the day. And when I finally feel like I have something to say, I don't have as much time as I would like to put it together.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing.
No, I know exactly how you feel.
I'll say it again. Flytrap is one of the most interesting things I've read in a long time. And I'm so excited to be putting it out. So when you hear this, guys, pre-orders should be live. And if you go to the Six and Center, if you it will be basically we'll be blasting it across all channels that we have. So at Wasteland Pod, over at I Don't Want to Hear It on Instagram, the Six and Center Instagram, which I believe is at Six and Center Publishing, but all the links will be in the show notes, guys. And Liam, I'm sure, will be promoting it as well. That's what happens when you work with with a DIY publisher.
No. I'm just happy to share it with like friends and stuff.
I really think if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of weird fiction, if you're a fan of anything from Ari Aster to H.P. Lovecraft to Jordan Peele to even Stephen King. I mean, I know that he's much more broad, but just any sort of dark entertainment that you have to sit with for a little bit afterwards, you got to get the book, guys. You just got to get it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It was great talking to you, Liam. Thanks for going deep with me on some of these questions, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again for the next project.
I love that. Yeah, thank you.